In today's episode, I have Dr. Jared and Sway on, and what we are going to be doing is going over the Bryan Johnson interview that Andrew Schultz's podcast Flagrant recently had. Now, in this, it was a very interesting show because there was a lot of things that Bryan Johnson spoke about that we really related to, and there was a couple of insights that really revolutionized how I thought about anti-aging and different methods that you can go about it. However, there was one or two major red flags that I did have in a couple of the aspects of what he was saying that seemed to be counterintuitive between what he was saying versus what he was actually doing. So enjoy this episode, hope it brings some value, and let's get into the show. All right, well, before we get into my opinion, Jared, you've done a bit of research. And for people who are not familiar with Dr. Jared is, you know what, you tell them who you are.
So I'm a holistic doctor, but my degree's in chiropractic. I run a lot of blood work. I help people reverse their basically chronic disease. America has a lot of chronic disease, and we need to figure out how to fix it. And so I really liked a lot of what Bryan Johnson had to say, but and I'm just like, yes, I have put my patients on these products, So anyways, we'll talk more about it later, but that's what I do.
Because you're going to go into the products as well. There was a couple of things that were great, a couple of things you would improve, correct?
Yes. Well, a couple more just like question marks, but yes. Well, okay. Yes.
Okay,
yes,
we'll get
exactly.
into that, yeah. So, and my history is personal trainer and psychology. I've done a degree on that. Doesn't mean that I know stuff, but there was a couple of red flags for me amongst all the very interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Sway, you've got a history in burglary,
burglary amongst many other things. But one of the plethora of things I've done,
as long as it's below 950,
it is.
California crime.
But also my background is my degree is in biology, my Bachelor of Science, and I did 2 years of neuroscience research at University of Florida. So reading scientific literature is basically like my past career. So it was very fascinating to just listen to what he had to say and to kind of observe it from my personal point of view based upon my experiences.
Yeah. Jared, you go into it first because I want to hear all the good stuff before I start poking in the things that were red flags for me.
Okay, well, just in terms of his foundation, in my opinion, is controlling metabolic health and blood sugar response. And I think literally that's why they talk about metformin as being a longevity drug, because if you control your blood sugar response, you control basically one of the main drivers of inflammation in the body. And if your inflammation is down, you won't age, right?
Yeah.
So
hold on, can you hear Sway's breathing in the microphone?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just so excited.
All right, just back it up.
We said
back it up a little
fist,
bit.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I have a small fist.
But just if you're breathing and not talking, maybe lean back a little.
Just the thought of Bryan Johnson being in the age of 18 just gets me going,
Okay, so metformin.
It's an anti-aging drug, right? Well, it's obviously used to treat type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
But it's also being investigated as an anti-aging drug, but that's not because it is an anti-aging drug. Well, it's because if you control your blood sugar, you'll live longer, right? And University of North Carolina has said that 86% of U.S. adults have a busted metabolic or blood sugar controlling system. So you're more than likely like that unless you're doing something countercultural and innovative like Bryan Johnson. He's using a lot. For example, if it was me, I don't prescribe medications. That's not within my scope because I don't want to be a part of it. But something I would use maybe to kind of do the same exact thing. I shouldn't say same exact thing. A similar thing to metformin could be something called berberine. That's getting really popular in the alternative health spaces, but that has shown to really not only improve blood sugar regulation and lower blood sugar in diabetics, but also improve the gastrointestinal microbiome, which has a lot of benefits as well. So anyways, overall, I like his approach. I don't feel bad about making my patients take a lot of pills anymore because he takes over 100 pills a day.
Yeah, that is a lot of pills. And
Too bad, so sad. If you don't want to age at the rate that most Americans are aging, just due to environmental stressors like pesticides in the food, environmental toxins, personal care products, inorganic food, etc. I agree with him. Some of my best mentors in my career, and I've trained and worked with some of the best in the alternative healthcare industry, all take a plethora of supplements that would be overwhelming to the average person.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just depends on how bad do you want it. How bad do you want to play with your grandkids when you're old, right? I mean, it's I'm being extreme, maybe, but anyways, so now I'm just like, some of my patients are like, oh my gosh, 12 pills, it's so many. And now I'm just like, I don't care at all anymore. I mean, I have a compassion, like everything takes a learning curve, right? But it's just like, okay, what's your new normal? And I think Bryan Johnson has done a really good job of building himself and constructing for himself a new normal that really does lead to a healthy life.
Yeah. Look, he's correct. Like the whole don't die mentality and like that, the crux of every human and what we all are thinking subconsciously or consciously, depending on the situation, is don't die. That was one thing that I thought was very on point. And I myself, since early 20s, I've had this long-term goal of I want to look younger for longer. It's not just the looks, but it's like vibrant, be able to, that look younger for longer then turned into I want to be able to outrun my kids for as long as possible. Like it's all related to don't die. But the thing that led me down a rabbit hole in my mid-20s of, what is it that keeps me younger? And there's, decrease inflammation as much as possible, exercise, the food you eat so important, and the just the environment you're in, like just keep your body as clean as possible and limit the stress. And that was the thing that I found with him, which was I like his foundational ones that like if you improve these big three, which is diet, exercise, and sleep.
Yeah.
That one, as we know, sleep is so important, and he nails it. Like you do need to be, once you gear your sleep and you put the sleep as a priority, it helps with hormone regulation. It helps with cortisol regulation and stress and processing toxins and processing body fat and etc. I've seen many people lose weight just by fixing their sleep. I've seen many
100%.
people decrease stress, anxiety, increase productivity during the day by focusing on the right access of stress. And I, like him, prefer to go to bed at 8 p.m. Wake up at 4 a.m. I've noticed that it's better quality of a day if I go to sleep at 8 p.m. versus even 10 p.m. I can still get 8 hours and I wake up at 6, but the quality of the day is not as good. Exercise, I found it interesting. They said exercise a minimum of 6 hours a day and then split that down.
A week, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, a week. Yeah, a day would be insane. That's like Biggest Loser numbers. So yeah, 6 hours a week was an interesting metric. And the thing that was, he wanted, now my third part, which is where I had the issue, he goes on to this big thing and about how our brain is a monarch and our body is a democracy. I love that analogy because it's so accurate. It's make sure focus on, like your brain is just a tyrant. It's going to want what it wants at the sacrifice of the body. Whereas if you listen to your body, you actually do overall feel better. Like there's moments where I want to have some sugar or whatever, and I have to try and think how my body is going to feel rather than my brain. And so his thing, which we're also going to touch on with the AI and eliminating that tyrant, was so on point. But when he gets to diet, all that ideology and thought process is thrown to the wind. It's all about science. It's all about remove what your brain thinks and just focus on your body. But then he said he eats as a vegan. And so I was like, okay, this is completely against what I believe. So this is interesting because this guy is all about the numbers. This is all he said the whole time, remove your brain. Fuck your morals, fuck your ethics. It doesn't matter. What is best for you? But then when Andrew Schultz asked, why vegan?
Right, because of ethics.
Shoots off to all about brain, nothing about science, and completely undermines his whole rhetoric of why he's doing what he's doing which I agreed with everything.
Right. And maybe for those who didn't listen to the podcast, but he mentioned, like, basically he was avoiding animals and animal products because he wanted to believe in a world with more compassion.
Yeah.
It was a very emotional.
So that was my issue with Bryan Johnson.
Right.
It's, your brain is a tyrant. Don't listen to it. Listen to your body. What do you eat? Vegan. Why? Because my brain says that this is a better ethical choice. It's like, hold on. You're spending millions of dollars on this. I agree with so much of what you're saying, especially the underlying core.
Right.
But then when diet comes into place, he goes completely against it. And that was one of the biggest hole I had in what this guy, because I wanted to hear, like, all right, cool, we hear about carnivore, we hear about its benefits, but this guy's spending millions of dollars on anti-aging. Give me the juice. Let's quickly tell a story about how Susan reversed her type 2 diabetes in 12 to 16 weeks. Now, we all know that traditional medicine, they're not in it to make you healthy, because if they can keep you in poor health, they can keep themselves rich. Now, this has become extremely frustrating with all of us now that the veil has been lifted from our eyes. And a lot of us are turning to holistic medicine because its goal is to get to the root cause, undo the problem, and help us live a better life, which is what we want. We don't want to be addicted or subscribed to these pills or medications for the rest of our life. Also because it's just freaking expensive. What Susan ended up doing, she got tired of hearing all these things, these excuses from doctors that, hey, don't worry, insulin's your thing, insulin's your friend, you're gonna be on it for life and that'll keep you steady. Instead, she reached out to the team at ReVital. They had a look at her blood work, and through holistic interpretation, they gave her a pathway of nutrition, other support, so that she can take actionable steps. And what happened is, in her individual case, now we can't claim, and we're not saying that this will happen to everyone, but in Susan's individual case, Susan reversed her type 2 diabetes in 12 to 16 weeks. It is a game changer for someone's quality of life. Now, if you have a chronic issue that every time you go to a doctor, they say, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do, give ReVital a try. What you can do is just head to bit.ly/ReVital Health. That link is in the description of wherever you're watching or hearing this. Have a consultation call with my friend, Dr. Jared. Dr. Jared's been on our podcast. You may have seen the face a couple of times. He will see first, before he even commits anything, whether or not he can help. Because this is, again, health is an ever evolving thing. It's nuanced, but he wants to make sure that you are the right fit for ReVital and make sure that he can serve you the right way. So if you want to find out, just book a call, have a conversation, see if it's right for you by just going to bit.ly/ReVital Health. That link is in the description. Make use of it and let's make your life feel better. I don't want to feel crap. I want to feel good. And so do you. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I'd like to press him about that, because I wonder if, like, if pressed, like, okay, give us some data if if he did have some,
but
or if it really just
would have. That's the thing. You best believe if he had the data that backed up veganism, he would have brought it to the table. Maybe. So for me,
I still want to ask him. But yes,
I still want to ask him. But here's the thing: is he was bringing data to the table with everything. The second veganism came up, no data, which made me only go further towards eating animal products, because I was like, this is a guy who, if he had the numbers to correlate and support his belief, you best believe he's showing it, but he didn't.
Well, I think that's the nuance, though, in regards to his communication. And just like listening to that podcast, listening to him, in regards to everything he's talking about, it's so complicated and so intertwined with different things. So, and how he talked about, or rather Schultz kind of brought up, was the fact that Blueprint is more so a exercise of him being a longitudinal case study and showcasing how artificial intelligence and a different macro worldview can be more effective for us living lives that are fulfilling, opposed to simply just using our brain. And I think in regards to, because he was asked why he chose, why not meat? Could you also do meat? And he mentioned, yeah, you can modify Blueprint to allow for meat products to be included, but he just preferred to do veganism. Now, I think that his overall thesis and what he was presenting is that we should live a life based upon data. for our own personal biology. And he does express that, one of the things that he gets pushback on is that he's N of one. He's only one person. So thus you can't necessarily extrapolate that data to the entire population. But the thing is that he's the only person who has done a study of this intensity and duration, looking at when I change one thing in my diet, how does it affect my body? So in regards to what he's trying to do, I don't think it's necessarily him trying to say that everyone should be eating as a vegan, but I think what he is trying to do is showcasing that you can live a very regimented life that is based upon data, and what you consume is based upon data opposed to based upon your emotional impulses. So I think that him choosing to be vegan is a personal choice, but I don't think it actually undermines his overall point, because his overall point from my perspective...
He pressed that point so hard though. Remember he had it was like a half an hour conversation about if you had an algorithm that could show you the best thing, the happiest that you could do, would you do it? Obviously he's leading him down, no, I want free will. And then he has his half an hour analogy of the brain's a tyrant, the body's a democracy, which I loved that he did. I loved that. To then, for me, it's like, this guy's the crazy, extreme person who does everything to the nth degree, that then is the North Star that then pushes forward said industry. Like Elon Musk is the insane person that pushes other industries. Bryan Johnson is that guy for, I was hoping, anti-aging, and he's bringing a lot to the table that it just felt very difficult to swallow. It kind of pushed me the other direction of, this is a guy who's obsessed with this thing. He has this bias. He's not presenting any data, therefore it's probably not what he's doing in that specific part. He shows erection stuff, he shows everything. So it felt like that for me pushed me closer towards animal products because of that avoidance of bringing forth something that he definitely would have done.
And I think that he would be okay with that, because I don't think his goal is to popularize or propagate veganism. I think his goal is to propagate healthy living, being mindful, and using data and feedback from your body in terms of numbers as to what food you personally consume. So I don't think that the fact that he is vegan undermines his overall thesis. I think that it's just a byproduct of his own personal choice, because I think that he's trying to express that everyone can do Blueprint their own way.
Yeah. I don't think it undermines him. It was more an interesting thing that how passionate he was about, don't listen to my brain. Don't die, don't listen to my brain. That something as important, like that's the 3 pillars, sleep, exercise, diet, and he completely bypasses one of the major 3 pillars. Because that's why I tried vegan, didn't feel good on it, because I, like him, is so obsessed with how do I stay younger for longer. Now I don't have the money he has, but I also don't have he's even more crazy than me. But that's the research that I found, that I was without as minimal bias as possible, is what led me towards eating mostly meat and listening to biofeedback of my body. I'm not drinking my own piss for biofeedback, but I don't know. It just, for me, it was a very interesting thing to be like, well, if he's going to create this algorithm that he says doesn't have bias, I want someone who doesn't have bias creating that algorithm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like we're seeing with AI right now, it's like, Sora or whatever it was, the Google one just came under fire because it was like, draw me a white family. It's like, I don't want to get into race. It's like, draw me a black Abraham Lincoln. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So if there's that bias that they're already worried about certain things, but like I guess my concern would be with the AI is, if you're saying this AI knows better than me, but the guy who created it has a bias about one of the major 3 pillars, is there because of an ideology that it's moral, it's ethical, it's ideological, but if he has that, is he going to tweak it just that little bit so that we go like, oh, veganism is healthy for me?
That whole thing you just expressed of basically independent bias is one of the biggest problems within the scientific community. And that's one of the things that it's, because data is we like to say that data is objective, and it is, but data interpretation can oftentimes how you present the data can be very, very biased. I mean, you can look at an outlier, and that can either be, and if you remove it, it makes the data statistically significant. You can say, well, that's an outlier case. We shouldn't have to worry about it. This data might as well be considered significant. Or you can also say, well, no, that person is just as valued, even though they are an outlier. So, I mean, to your point, it's really a very big conundrum. But one thing that I think that is beautiful about what he's doing is that what you just expressed, that you want to see someone who's unbiased, or perhaps what could be equally as valued is someone who's biased in the opposite direction, do a similar type of protocol. So imagine if there was someone who was very pro meat product who wanted to also adopt a similar approach of using themselves as a case study for a similar blueprint with a meat variation on it. That would be amazing. And I think that's one of the best things that Bryan Johnson has done, is that I believe he really pushed humanity forward, because he showcased that you can indeed live a regimented life that is based upon data, and he's showing that you can be a chosen case study, and he's now creating a movement and having even people meet up with him in person to also do that. And I believe that's going to, in the future, bring forth more data, because one of the beautiful things and why science is supposed to be diverse is because it allows different biases, different experiential backgrounds, etc., to look at a same set of data and come up with multiple interpretations to hopefully elicit the truest of the truth that will allow us to live better lives. So I think that's one of the good things about what he's doing, especially doing it so publicly and so vocally. And I would argue with the level of marketing mastery that's pretty profound. I mean, Bryan Johnson talking about his Johnson, making his product literally called snake oil. Like, him and his team are doing a really great job making science sexy to the masses.
Yeah, there's definitely that. I agree. He's just an interesting character. What parts did you? I mean, look, that was my biggest not negative, but biggest observation in it. There was, like I said, there's so many parts that he said, like the brain's a tyrant, the body's a democracy. Love that. I agree. I actually now take that on even further. The exercise 6 hours a week, I was like, great, I'm on track with that. Like, those are the things I've been doing consistently my whole life. And there was like a couple of other things that were interesting, but Jared, you've done some research on like his products, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was going over the website, and he takes over 100 pills a day, which is interesting. But he takes stuff that I recommend all the time, like ashwagandha. That supports, basically, it's an adaptogenic herb. So adaptogens, basically, whether you're up here, whether you're too high or too low, it brings you to the middle, right? So it's amazing. I don't know of a drug that does that. It's something beautiful about nature. But ashwagandha can control adrenal response. It's good for fatigue, but it also helps, again, control blood sugar. So he's all about blood sugar control, which is, again, interesting to me. However, like some of the links, like a lot of good products, astaxanthin, B complex. He had a lot of garlic that he was doing.
Garlic?
Yeah, garlic.
Fighting off vampires?
Yeah, well, garlic's like antioxidant, cardiovascular health, lowering blood pressure, antiviral.
Interesting.
Lots of compounds in garlic that are really beneficial for the body long term.
Is there a way to take it without your breath stinking?
Yeah, so he has non-odorous garlic supplement that he recommends, and I mean, I sell a non-odorous one in my clinic.
Yeah,
so that's very common.
Part of Revital. Yeah.
So, and then he was taking boron, and boron is one of the minerals that most Americans are very deficient in that they haven't heard of. I mean, everyone pretty much has heard about magnesium at this point.
Yeah.
So, yes, magnesium is important, but boron is as well, especially for bone health, actually, and bone mineralization. People think about calcium, vitamin D, maybe magnesium if they're smart, but boron is a huge element of like bone mineral density as well, and he studies that on himself. Which I found interesting. However, when I was looking at like the products and like the links he was sending people to Amazon for the different things he takes, I saw some of my least favorite supplement brands, just because they have been known to not necessarily contain the actual ingredient. They have inflammatory additives or binders with the product, and or they've been found to have contaminations like lead, arsenic, heavy metals, things like that. So
see, man, he's not that on it for someone who's so obsessed.
I mean, unless like out of that brand, that product specifically, they managed to make in a beautiful manner, but I highly doubt it. So there are a couple brands I was not a big fan of, and I was like, but overall, like I just feel very.
What was something you would say to stay away from?
Well, I don't like Now brands.
Now
it's called Now. You can buy it in a lot of different grocery stores. Yeah. I find it to be really dirty.
Really? What makes it dirty?
It's just not high quality. It's not good quality. It's cheap usually, and yeah, that's pretty much the extent of what I remember studying from it. But so I do a lot of biofeedback testing in my clinic as well, and basically the body will either accept or reject a product, and most of the time I find that Now brand is rejected by the body. So that's going down a whole rabbit trail, but
I mean, we can get on the rabbit trail. Well, we want to find out, like, what should I stay away from? What should I do? So Now, avoid Now right now.
Yeah, avoid Now. I don't like Now. Nature's Sunshine is another brand. He did not recommend Nature's Sunshine, but people bring me in their Nature's Sunshine or their...
That name just sounds like it's shit.
Right?
It's like Quality Inn. You know it's going to be a bad name.
Right. It's like Hidden Valley Ranch, Nature's Sunshine.
Hidden Valley. You'll never find it.
Right, because it doesn't exist. It's an idea and you're being conned. But Nature's Sunshine, I really don't like. He was recommending even some essential oils for different things that he was doing. He was doing a tea tree oil mouthwash, which is as part of his oil regimen. So you just got to be careful. I mean, I've seen people bring me in their like Walmart essential oils, and they're all just like fragrances. So chemicals, you know.
Yeah, okay.
So so many people are wasting money on a product, on a crappy product, and then are disappointed when natural healthcare didn't work for them. And I'm just like, well, it's this has to do, like, kind of going back to meat too. It's like, okay, all the meat studies are standard American diet versus vegan or vegetarianism.
Yeah.
Right? They don't ever tell you
a healthy vegan.
Right. Healthy vegan diet. So of course, if you're eating McDonald's compared to a healthy vegan, the healthy vegan is going to be healthier. Right? Well, they do the same thing with vitamin and supplement studies. They'll take a crappy form of vitamin D or whatever that they got from Costco or that they can easily cheaply mass produce, and they'll compare it to a drug, and they'll be like, oh, well, the drug outperformed vitamin D, so therefore vitamins aren't really important to the mainstream medical system in the United States. And it's like, well, no, you used a synthetic, mass produced, made in a lab vitamin.
Poor quality.
Right. Because when you look at a vitamin comes with cofactors, coenzymes, right? So I always use this example with my patients. It's like the scientists looked at a car and they're like, the steering wheel, that's vitamin C, ascorbic acid. We can figure that out. Let's make the steering wheel in a lab, and we'll bottle the steering wheel, and you'll get 1,000 milligrams of steering wheels every day in your ascorbic acid supplement, right? But in nature, when you have vitamin C in a grapefruit or citrus or liver, right, it comes with the entire car. It's functional. It actually drives. It goes somewhere. It drives in a biological process, right? So we're over here, we keep eating steering wheels, and our body is like, dear God, give me a tire, right? So it's like, so when you do a study based off of steering wheels, okay, yeah, ascorbic acid may not be beneficial in treating this immune problem or this cancer, right? But if you take a whole food supplement or a real vitamin with all its cofactors, coenzymes, you bring the functionality back to what it is. And so you can take all these different products and you can buy all these different products, but one, if they're not clean, that's a problem, right? Do they even actually have the herb that they say they have in it? They've shown studies. One of my friends,
they can blatantly sell you a herb that isn't actually in the bottle.
Yes, they do that all the time, because here's the thing. So this is like the how do I explain it? It's the good and bad about FDA regulation or lack thereof, right? The FDA does not regulate supplements. I love that, because I don't want the FDA regulating a lot of things, because
if they did, they'd probably ban the good ones.
Right. Well,
like they do with everything.
Right. Well, if you look at NAC, which is the precursor to glutathione, the most powerful antioxidant in the body, they were talking about banning it during COVID and the lockdowns, because it was so effective at treating the cytokine storm and the rising inflammation in the lungs from a COVID infection, which, by the way, Bryan Johnson takes 3,600 milligrams of NAC every day. So
3,600 milligrams.
Yeah.
What would be the equivalent of, like, if you just took straight glutathione?
Well, okay, so glutathione, here's the thing about NAC versus glutathione. Glutathione, when you take it orally, it will be digested and broken apart. Okay, so the only effect that oral glutathione may have is on restoring like the gut lining, which is not a bad thing.
Intramuscular?
Intramuscular is more beneficial because it goes directly into the bloodstream. However, I don't know the direct equivalent off the top of my head of 3,600 milligrams to what would that be in intracellular intramuscular glutathione. But NAC, what it does is it gives the body all the building blocks it needs to produce glutathione on its own. So I'm a firm believer in that the body that is intelligent, when you give it what it needs, it will completely repair itself. I mean, just like, you know, someone will get exosomes or stem cells, right? The body will use those to then repair parts of itself that it deems necessary.
Yeah. So should I be taking 3,500 milligrams of NAC?
I'm not comfortable giving direct dosing to like the mass population, but I have seen NAC reverse non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, bring down liver enzymes just by taking NAC orally, and it's cheap. So I mean, intramuscular glutathione usually is like, is that in a drip or just a shot? Remind me.
I take a shot once a week.
Okay, so I don't know
in the butt.
I don't know the cost of that to the average consumer.
Yeah.
But a bottle of really good NAC that will be a month's supply is about $30. So usually taking orally to me suffices what the body will need.
Hey guys, just quickly, we're going to talk about testosterone levels. Now, this is something that can make us kind of uncomfortable to talk about. I know when I was chatting with my wife, she was pretty confident my testosterone levels are pretty low. So obviously as a man, I was kind of offended by this, but I was also curious because I do know that if I increase my testosterone levels, if I need to, I can feel a lot healthier, happier, more energetic, more motivated. List all the crap above that you want to insert, but testosterone just makes you feel better. Now, this is not an ad for testosterone replacement therapy. I still believe that you should be waiting until the last time to do it. Don't jump straight onto that. But if you are curious, there is this cool, free 60-second online test called the Atom Test. And what this is just 10 questions that they've curated, these 10 questions that have up to an 88% accuracy rating of whether or not you may be showing indications of low testosterone. Now, to do that, just head to bit.ly/the Atom Test. That's bit.ly/THEADAM Now, if you don't want to remember that, like I don't want to, you can just head to the link in the description of wherever you're watching this. 60 seconds, 10 questions, 88% accuracy. And if you want to find out more after you find those results, T Clinics, who I've paired up with and I do a lot of content with as well, you can have a conversation with them to see if you want to do something to help increase your testosterone levels. The great thing about T Clinics and the reason why I partner with them and why I personally use them as well is they are very hesitant to give someone testosterone replacement therapy. Instead, they'll help boost your testosterone naturally because they're not like other people where, I mean, this is going to sound like a pitch, but this is just me. Honestly, I've worked with them for so long because of this reason. I don't like people forcing testosterone replacement therapy onto me, friends, family, and you. So these guys will listen and do what's the right thing to help you become better and healthier, happier, and whatever it is, better at everything. Maybe not math, but it'll help with other things. Let's go back to the show.
I want to go back. I want to go back to the FDA, and basically because there's not a lot of FDA testing and regulation. One, I think less government is better because I think whenever the government gets involved, the healthcare system slows down and we don't get fast results, right? True science relies on true investigation, not regulation. And so while regulation can sometimes keep us safe, blah, 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 I get it. But that's why
it doesn't anymore.
Well, that's why third-party testing, I think, is more valuable than any government agency testing. But anyways, they've shown in different studies that I cannot quote off the top of my head that say a bottle of echinacea that stimulates lymphatic drainage and white blood cell regulation and immune system regulation, right? It will not actually have echinacea in it, or it'll have the cheaper form of echinacea than it advertises, right? Or it'll have the wrong part of the plant, which is not as phytoactive as the part that it should be, right? So they've done all these studies, and so that's why you really have to know your company, and you really have to trust the company, and the company should be doing third-party testing, and that's why I'm so picky about the brands I use, because if you're going to spend money, I want it to work, and yeah, it might be a little bit more expensive, but it'll knock out COVID overnight. Like I've done that before with different products. I just use COVID because that's a traumatic example in my brain.
Yeah,
but
everyone knows it.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, so some of his products, I was just like, that's interesting. So I thought, how cool is he getting these results with even using some not so great products? It kind of just made me inspired to see, okay, what can I do? Because I know products.
I'd love to know as well, like what else is he taking? Is he taking CJC with ipamorelin? Is he taking BPC 157? Is he taking the popular peptides that are proving to be quite beneficial for the body? Because
So I was looking at his entire regimen online that he has like listed out for anyone to read, and the only, I guess, quote unquote, not natural things, he didn't seem to be doing any peptide therapy. He was doing an estrogen, I believe it was an injection, I can't remember, some type of estrogen therapy, because it's been shown in rat and mouse studies that with a bit of higher estrogen, you actually have more longevity. So
is that just because you whinge more and don't really do anything?
you
Whinge? Can you define that term for me?
Okay, like, can you translate your Oz right now?
You whinge? You like complain?
Oh,
You don't know what whinge means?
no,
No.
I think that's Australian slang.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That guy is such a whinger.
I'm keen to learn. I'm keen to use it now.
it's like whinger wanker. It's very similar.
So if you have more issues, hold on, because right now we have like a testosterone problem where men's testosterone is dropping. But you're saying that could be a good thing for longevity?
Well, okay, just because testosterone.
Because I have high T, and that probably means I'm going to die soon, correct?
Well, don't know, but just I don't think you can say that. But high testosterone doesn't
We'll find out.
necessarily mean you have low estrogen, right? So I think, so estrogen, when we look at human physiology, is what's called the proliferative hormone. So basically, when you have more of it, your body builds more tissue. That's why there's a lot of more, I guess, quote unquote, female related cancers like breast cancer, ovarian cancer, whatever, because of, and you're at a higher risk when you have too much estrogen, because it's going to proliferate, basically meaning cells will make more cells, right? So I think that does is a component of longevity in terms of, okay, is my body proliferating or making new cells to the extent that's healthy?
Yeah.
Right. So I think maybe that, I haven't studied it. I just saw this on the website, but that's where my brain went. I was like, oh, okay, I see how that makes sense. However, his testosterone is high for his age. It's in the 700, 750 something, which is pretty good for what, 46? Is he 46?
He means
Yeah, I
40
believe
something.
so. Now that's interesting.
I'm at 980, baby.
Hey, there we go.
Shit,
So he
36,
doesn't
baby.
specify. He doesn't specify the rationale then on his site for those different things he's taking.
He does. If you
Okay,
he
does.
says he was taking. That's where I got the rat and mice study example. It was literally on his website. And he's like, I'm taking this because it shows in studies that female rats lived a certain amount of time longer than male rats, and they think it's because of this form of estrogen, which is estradiol.
Well, that's the same though. Like, I mean, we've got the stats with the average life expectancy for a man versus a female. Like you can see that just with the stats with humans.
Yeah, but I think with that, it's not just like hormonal. There's also behavioral with that. I think men are just more risk taking.
I'm not exactly quoting the study properly, but I believe there was some intervention with the administration of the estradiol with the rat study. So it wasn't just like, oh, female rats live longer than male rats, it must be estrogen. Like, that's kind of pulling something out of your ass, But anyways, where was I going? I don't remember, but yeah, I like that. I thought that was pretty interesting.
But that's a very important point that you expressed though about like the source of where you're getting these things from, because it does talk to that nuance. He does talk about that too. Like, you have to look at the quality of source of whatever you're taking, supplement, meat, etc. And I think what would your advice be to the average American for looking for quality vitamins, meats, fruits, veggies, etc.? Like, what's a good workflow to do that as an average person?
That is a long answer.
Well, it takes a lot of learning. I mean, it's a huge learning curve, because unfortunately, like Bryan Johnson said in the podcast, our food is just like corruptly dirty. Like, it's awful. And every day I learn more, it just makes me want to give up a little bit.
And I'm finding out more and more. Like, so Australia they've done a very good job at not letting us know. Like, the whole time when Stacey lived in Australia with me, she was like, I just feel like this was based on zero investigation. I just feel like Australia is better food quality.
It probably is.
It's not. We found out they have glyphosates and shit all in it. Like, it's the same stuff. Like, even on the Australian website, whatever it is, the government website. I search, does it use glyphosates? And they have things that are like, yes, they even have on the Australian website, we are aware that there has been a couple of lawsuits against Bayer with the glyphosates.
Mm-hmm.
We just still don't see that it's a problem. Like they openly like, yeah, we still do it. So Australia, what Australia does to their foods is kind of the same as America. It's just that I guess we don't, our artificial sweeteners, our sweeteners, like, you know, you guys have high fructose corn syrup. Everyone knows it's bad for you. We have like sucrose or sucralose, which is just as bad, but it tastes so good. So at least the Australian government and food corporations, they at least when they're poisoning us, it tastes good. America is just like, oh, here's your shit tasting poison. Like, so that's the biggest difference I found with Australia. It's like we're not as healthy as everyone thinks we are. You think of Bondi, it's like, all right, cool. That's thinking of California, you know, and going like the whole of America is like that. It's like, no, that's just the people that go to the beach and take their shirts off. So
I remember what we were talking about. We were talking about other things besides herbs and drugs. Besides herbs and like natural supplements.
Yeah.
He was talking about, he was taking, if people care, he was taking thyroid medication, levothyroxine, because he was diagnosed with hypothyroidism when he was 21. He's taking he's taking low-dose aspirin 3 times a week. He's taking rapamycin, which is a steroid, which is interesting, and then 2 blood sugar regulating drugs, metformin and carbose.
Interesting.
What do you say?
So the thyroid thing's more related to his personal issue.
Yeah, he's also taking Armour, which is pig thyroid. It's like a natural version of like thyroid medication. Yeah, so basically in human physiology, if you take a glandular, like if you eat an endocrine gland, you consume some of that hormone. So if the thyroid is underperforming, if you eat thyroid from an animal that is semi-human compatible, you will experience the effects of as if you were making that thyroid hormone yourself. It's called glandular therapy. It's amazing. You can do it with adrenal glands, you can do it with the brain, you can do it with the heart. And so I use a lot of glandular therapy with my patients. They come in with, I don't know, say hypothyroidism, just because we're talking about it. I'll put them on a glandular and it helps regulate the immune system and helps stimulate the thyroid gland to basically produce. It's basically a way of taking thyroid hormone naturally. So he's on, but however, Armour is prescription only because it's so powerful. It's like as if you were taking a bioidentical hormone. Anyways, so I thought it was interesting. He is taking 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I guess 4 prescription drugs. But other than that, I didn't see really anything like about peptides or anything.
Interesting.
He even said on the podcast he wouldn't do Ozempic. He doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, but he doesn't. The thing is, he doesn't have to. Like,
right. He also said, "I'm not a 300-pound person who may need it."
That's the thing. So, I think right now, because obviously with T clinics and Uviva, 2 of my clients, we talk about that. And the problem is just like anything in medical, it's meant to be a tool. With like Ozempic is meant to be a tool that's like it's a short like wrench in the works, so you can get yourself back on track and then you pull it back out. And if you use it short term, there's no issues. But the problem is people are starving themselves. They are saying, I am skinny because of Ozempic. And a lot of those people are starting to lean towards that versus, again, using it responsibly short-term
behavioral changes, dietary changes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where things get really messy too, is where psychology meets biology. And what do you guys think, actually? A lot of people in the comment section of that video and his other content frequently talk about the fact that one of the going complaints is, or criticisms rather, is that you can't be healthy because you have to / because you take all these non-natural supplementations in addition to what you're eating. What are you guys' thoughts about like that perspective?
That's bullshit. Basically, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, healthy doesn't... Everyone idolizes the past, shuns the present, fears the future. It's the same in anything. Like, you hear it like, oh, cavemen used to eat this. Cool. They also died fucking young. They had disease. They had all these other problems. Like, yes, we've evolved certain ways. However, I think there are other things like vitamins. It's impossible to get everything you want out of food. So supplementation does help. Again, type of supplementation is important. Same as even meat. Having a burger or having a meat patty from McDonald's is not the same as having a grass-fed, grass-finished steak with a non-hormonal cow. It's just not the same. but I think you can have supplements. And I mean, it's the same thing with even some of these. I fight off. I feel myself getting sick a little bit. I have one of these ones, the new Viva Immune Defend. I swear to God, every time I feel myself getting a little bit sick, I'll have 2 instead of 1 for the day, or 2 or 3. I wake up the next morning and I was like, I was never going to even be sick.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think our food has changed so much. I think supplementation is more important now than ever because our food is worse.
Yeah.
Right? I think a lot of our, like, the previous generations, they didn't have to supplement, but they didn't supplement because it was in the food.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like, I mean, I don't, even like some of the products, like it's broccoli based, or, you know, that I was looking that he was eating. And I mean, I don't eat a lot of broccoli, and broccoli mineral content, antioxidant content, what is it? Sulforaphane, which is in broccoli. It just makes me wonder, well, I know that people before us had higher concentrations of minerals, vitamins in the food because of soil depletion, things like that over the years.
Yeah.
So I don't really view it as like supplementation, or that he's not healthy without it. It's just like he's helping himself restore his, I guess, body to a healthier environment.
Yeah.
Because like if you don't be proactive, you're going to age and decay at the rate of your environment.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, too, it's like if you could be better with a supplement, why wouldn't you be?
Why wouldn't you be?
Right. Like those people that are making those comments, I guarantee they are less healthy.
Mm-hmm.
They are not doing even the base 3.
Yeah.
Sleep, exercise, and what is it? Diet.
Yeah.
It's like asking.
And then they go, ooh.
It's like asking. Well, you're not fit if you have to go to the gym.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a very good analogy.
And you're not healthy if you have to take supplements.
And that's a great point, because he's doing that to further enhance what he's already doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think that's 2 things. My personal perspective on it is that, one, people, I think, are misconstruing what he's trying to do, because I've never consumed his content and viewed it as him being preachy. You should do this. It's more so, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And to your point, which we pointed out, even with his hypothyroidism, there are things that are unique to him that other people may not struggle with. So that's why he's using himself as a case study and saying, this is what I'm doing, and here's my results. And if you also want results that are similar, you can perhaps try a blueprint, and it may serve you in a similar way, or it may not. Either way, it's your body, your free will. You can do what you like. You can be up till 4 a.m. if you want to. I'm just going to sleep at 10.
Yeah, he's. I would agree. He's not preachy at all. It was just, again, to bring it back to my only criticism was I loved everything he said about. It's basically facts, not feelings.
Right. I think
like that was his underlying message.
I think he made a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and fuck.
I concede. He would say that to me. Well, I concede to your point.
I concede to your point.
Now, what are your guys' thoughts on the macro when he's talking about having a 0th moment, and with AI and how that may interplay with everything else that he's doing, and if perhaps AI is the one who sets forth an algorithm? Do you, when I first heard that, I
cool
repelled,
concept,
but I went leaned into it now. Like, do you still find it repellent?
No, I mean, look, the whole concept made sense, but it was also just, it felt a little irrelevant to the health stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it felt like I was like,
The
all right,
AI stuff? What are we talking about?
Yeah, like he's talking about the AI and those 0 moments. So what they are is like, the 0 moment is the start of something that never really was even a thought. Is that correct? Like that's basically what he was saying? Yeah,
essentially, yeah. It's something that wasn't even a thought. And to your point, I think that it's very interesting to see how everyone perceives his message, because, you know, the message I think he's intending to put forth is not very clearly articulated, because it's hard to get in any singular video.
Yeah.
But to me, the message he's trying to purport is that AI is coming. There's going to be a brand new way of doing things. And perhaps within our lifetime, we may be living in a reality where we will be basically forced to choose whether or not we decide to forego our free will for a heightened level of existence. And this is him showcasing that, hey, I forego my mind, my freedom to live a very regimented life. And due to that, I am now fitter than ever. I now have biological markers of increased longevity and rejuvenation, and I'm happier and more fulfilled than ever.
Yeah.
So perhaps it would be ludicrous for us to not succumb, so to speak, without, or maybe a word with less negative connotation, but to not succumb to the higher intellect that can drive society forward to our next greater ambition as a unity.
That's actually a good point, because I know that he's gotten a lot of kickback of people going, well, if you're doing all this to live 10 years longer, you're losing all these other great things during life. Like, you're not living life. However, I don't think he's not sacrificing anything, because his journey is the work. And I think that's like, it's the same thing. Like, when you go out and I don't want to eat junk food, and people always go, but you got to enjoy life. And I'm like, no, I do, because I don't have that shit.
Right.
Or
maybe I want to hang out with people who don't want to eat junk food.
Yes. And so I think he's enjoying his life doing the thing he's doing. And I don't think he's missing out on anything. And I think, again, people view what they're doing as the fun thing.
Right.
And if you're not doing it, you're not enjoying life. And so because he is such a high performer, he's freaking doing some incredible things, that's a quick way to cut it out. It's like, but he's not living life. But then when
but he is.
He's 50, 60, 70, and those same people have horrific health and they cannot enjoy life at all, then he won. Like, that's my whole thing as well, is just when I get older, I know people always just like, they don't now, but even a couple of years earlier, it was like that same thing. Like, man, what do you do to enjoy life? Like, come on, man, you got to enjoy it. I'm like, dude, this is fun.
Yeah.
It's just not your fun.
They have the assumption that enjoyment equals indulgence.
Yes.
And that's not true. Why can't
Gluttony.
enjoyment be restraint, wisdom, precision, measured, specificity?
That's a hard word to say.
Specificity.
There we go.
Yeah, nailed it. But why is it indulgence? And so I guess it's just like, for me, I think about like my life and my impact, and I think about the more that I eat junk food, the more that I drink, the less life longevity I will have, the less impact I will have, the less people I will touch.
Yeah.
Right. And like,
I love touching people.
Okay. It sounds so like, maybe, I don't know, extreme, but it's just, I don't know. It's just like, how valuable do you really think your life is? And I think our lives are worthy of restraint, are worthy of discipline. And there's this phrase that's like, what creativity loves constraint. It's like true freedom, true creativity happens with rules, happens with constraint.
Jocko Willink has one like that. Discipline will set you free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That concept, Jared, you did a very great job of articulating it, and it's one that I can appreciate all the
Thanks,
more.
buddy.
Quite verbose you are, but it's something I can appreciate even more now, having lost like over 30 pounds. Now
You lost 30 pounds?
yeah,
Gee.
yeah, man, it feels good. That's why I'm wearing this tank top, bro. What you mean?
America.
Man.
But like, right? So that, as well as now, I was a nighttime, I was a night
Went from
owl.
swallow to sway.
There we go. Oh yeah.
I was thinking about it for a while. I was like, come on, Swan. What could be?
There's an opportunity
big?
here.
I'm
I have
where
to
is
take it.
Ninja, come on. Nope.
Just so you know, the joke I was gonna say that I was thinking of was talking about Bryan Johnson's Johnson. I was so glad I hit it when I said it at the beginning of the podcast. I was like, yes, there we go.
That was the joke?
That was baking the ingredient for 30 minutes.
Oh, that's good. We didn't laugh.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Anticlimactic.
But you laughed at the beginning of the show, so we'll take that.
That's true.
But to that point of like constraint, restriction, finding pride and giving back, that is something that I have become intimately familiar with these past 4 months. So I started I used to sleep at like 3-4 a.m. consistently, and I used to always think I'm a night owl because I grew up in that environment. My mom was always up till 3-4 a.m.
Right.
And I started waking up at 6 and sleeping at 10, and I remember when I first dedicated myself to doing so, I was like, oh my God, life is going to suck. I'm going to be boring. It's going to be lame. But now when I wake up and I slap that alarm in the morning and I go take a cold shower, I feel so much pride and joy. I look at myself in the mirror. I say, yeah, Sway, you did what you said you're going to do. And I feel like
You're still naked after the shower when you say that?
I am. That's when I feel my best. I'm like, look at you, Sway.
After that cold shower, he's like, don't worry, you're a bigger man than most.
You're still loved, King. But
Just quickly, if you are interested in Revital and how it can help improve your health, go to bit.ly/Revital Health to book a call with Dr. Jared. That link is in the description. Click on that, book your call, have a chat, and see how it can help improve your health. Now let's get back to the show.
I just feel so much pride, and you can get enjoyment from things outside of indulgence. And I think that societal programming is why a lot of people overindulge and think that the only way to have joy, fulfillment, and happiness is with self-destructive behavior. And that's not the case.
That's called peer pressure.
It is in a negative way.
Short-term thinking, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't want to get too preachy. Just Bryan Johnson was fantastic. We liked him. Just my big one point, but I made my point. And do you guys want to do a Tim Tam Slam now with the singers we're talking about this health?
What?
Wait,
No.
the Tim... What's the,
No.
What's the Tim
Yeah,
Tam
That's the
Slam?
opposite of
Tim
what,
Tam Slam.
No, that's the opposite of what we're talking about.
Yeah. So what we're about to do, guys, which you won't get to see, don't do it, but it's great. Tim Tam Slam. I've got a bunch of Tim Tams from Australia.
I know what a Tim Tam
What's the
Slam is.
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, you're gonna enjoy it. All right, guys. Subscribe. See you next time. Bye. Sorry, guys. We completely forgot one thing. Jared had a very important point that he wanted to touch on, and he felt like he was... he wasn't heard.
Well, okay.
That's not how it
First of
went
all,
down.
you don't know my emotions. Second of all, so, well, just two random things that I wrote down in my notes that I thought was so cool. So in the podcast, he talked about how they studied a lot to basically regenerate the thymus gland. And so for those of you who don't know, the thymus gland, the thymus gland is what I tell my patients. It's where white blood cells go to school, or white blood cell university. Okay. And it lives right beneath your sternum. So it's protected, right? When you're an infant, when you're a child, it's big. And as you become an adult, it atrophies and shrinks and goes away. So that's why childhood infections, immune system stimulation and exposure, and kids putting things in their mouths, right? That is educating the thymus gland, building the library at White Blood Cell University. And then as an adult, you're like, I don't need to add more books. I've probably been exposed to most things, so the body prioritizes other things. Anyways, I just thought it was amazing that he was able to basically stimulate and reverse the age of his thymus gland, because that's literally an atrophied organ that he reversed the age in. So let me just make sure, look at my notes again. But anyways, and then he was like, we studied that a lot, but no one cared. So then we started studying erections. And I was like, wait, go back to the thymus. I cared a lot.
Jared's like, my erection is fine. My thymus though, bro.
I was like, wait, because I used to teach like general pathology and immunology. Anyways, back in school. And so I find the immune system fascinating, the two different branches and everything. So I was just kind of viewing everything he was saying through a window of the immune system. So I thought that was fascinating.
And so he reversed that by 9 years?
Well, okay, that was his brain.
That's his brain. That's a different thing?
Yeah, that was a different thing. So then his brain age, he got MRI scans, right? And it was like looking at the white matter density, I believe is what he called it. Basically, gray matter versus white matter in the brain can basically give a picture of like the age of the brain. And he reversed his brain age by 9 years just by correcting his posture. And I thought
that one I did take away. Like every time, if I'm driving, if I'm sleeping, I'm like chin up. I did take that away from him. That was very interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, being like a chiropractor, I work on posture a lot, and like even just talking about like lung capacity and blood flow to the brain through the arteries in the neck and the veins that drain the brain, it made sense to me. I was like, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So like having proper posture can reverse your brain age, which is fascinating.
Interesting.
And he talked about, like sitting as if you have a string pulling up through the back of your head, through the spine, right? Yeah. And he talked about how you had to do it. He had to like probably think about it 200 times a day before it became second nature, for a while. And so
he does walk a little bit like a reptile, praying mantis though.
Yeah. Kind of like an avatar, maybe.
It makes you wonder if that's how we're supposed to view body language and like posture, because I mean everyone's walking around with swagger, quote unquote, but is that
really
swagger?
They just have less blood flow to their brain.
Yeah, or are you just hypoxic and are you about to pass out right now? This is cognitive decline in action.
Well, we raised another point just off camera, by the way. This is my conspiracy theory around Bryan Johnson. He foresees that AI is becoming a big thing, and so if you're foreseeing that AI is going to be a massive influencing tool, we're all aware of whoever controls the food controls the people. That what if, this is a conspiracy theory, what if Bryan Johnson's big goal is that if I can get something that is so effective at telling people with so much confidence that they believe it. If I can create an AI that is going to get people to eat how it wants it to eat, therefore I can just steer people towards my products, whatever that is, my farmland, that now he controls because this guy's a marketing genius too.
Yeah.
Is this a long-term marketing thing as well? Because you've already said some of the products that he's recommended are very, subpar, but he's saying that they are top tier.
Right.
So
to be clear, I was not analyzing the ones he's personally selling. I was looking at his affiliate links for things going to Amazon. Just to make that super clear.
So that was the affiliate links, but he's still.
Right, but still, again, your point still stands.
If you see the affiliate link in his website, you're going to be like, well, these are the ones he recommends.
Right.
So that was the thing. Again, there's a lot of things that I think there is a noble cause, but the execution in some of the things, such as the one I complained about a lot, and then also that one where it's like, I'm not saying I recommend these, but here's my affiliate links to things that I'm actually probably not taking because they're subpar. So how much of it is genuine versus how much of it is a very smart guy who built Venmo, who knows marketing and knows the power of a good story mixed in with how that story can then be monetized, and also combined with an AI tool that is now going to be extremely persuasive.
Right.
You know, it'll be interesting to look into, actually, because I don't think that he's building himself an AI, but he did.
He's utilizing it though, to create a specific one around. Like he's not building AI, but he's training AI. Like, to my understanding was, like, everyone uses the backbone of ChatGPT or whatever it is, and then you can make sub things that are just around a certain niche, so people don't have to know the language, because ChatGPT is a language in itself. That you build the program on the backbone of ChatGPT, so that I don't have to put in the language because I'm not an expert. I think that's what he's doing. So he's building that around the backbone.
Well, perhaps. I don't think that he expressed that explicitly or inexplicitly on the podcast, but I think what he was articulating is that that's AIG. Or rather, that's not AIG. Excuse me. That's a large language model. But what he's talking about is when AIG does become
AGI. You mean?
Oh yeah, sorry, AGI.
Yep.
My bad. When AGI becomes a thing, that's when it's going to be a zeroth moment and things are going to change. Now he does likely invest in different companies who are working on things like that. He stated that he's invested in companies that are searching into different things. I forget what they were exactly. So perhaps he does have a financial stake in it, and he definitely does to a large degree, because he has his own products and he's trying to launch a powdered version of Blueprint, etc. So it definitely is a very interesting thing. But then what sucks, especially as when you're the head of an organization while simultaneously being a public figure, the execution oftentimes is not done by you, but it's done by your team. So is that
but he knows what his affiliate links are.
I mean, a lot of people that I've worked with that have affiliate links don't know what they are. But then is that gross negligence? Is that, then it becomes, it's hard to tell. And I think that because for me, the framework that I use whenever I'm looking at a public figure that's saying a story is what you touched on, congruence. Is their story aligning with their execution? 2, longevity. I think that over time, as time goes on, we will see, and hopefully the scientific community will go ahead and give his supplements a battery of tests. We should see a third party independently test his extra virgin olive oil.
But it was tested.
How'd it go?
I mean, the website said it was great.
I can't wait for the YouTube video of like a scientist from MIT talking about like their lab and what they did. Like Huberman's like, all right, y'all, we tested the olive oil. You know what I mean? And I think when we get that data from another person, that's going to be more compelling to me personally. Especially when we have multiple people doing that at scale, because that's when science gets exciting, when you have independent labs finding the same conclusion, and then we're like, okay, this has a high likelihood of being the true truth, opposed to this guy saying my shit's fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. But that's all we had, guys. Was there anything else that I missed? Cool. Subscribe. Love you guys.
Peace.